So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to this main room for the closing ceremony of the workshop. We had a busy few hours. We had multiple panel sessions on employability, on how to be an effective mentor, on what else, and sustainable and meaningful career. And PhD students participated in a group-based competition. They worked on creating creative projects that will address in real life and problem, tackle real life problem. And participants also had the opportunity to talk to their preferred mentors for career advice and advice on their research projects. And I hope everyone enjoying sessions. The plan for this closing session is to have a number of people who are involved in various elements of the program to summarize and then reflect on the element that they were involved in. So we will start with Rawan, Dr. Rawan Nimri. So Rawan, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. So Rawan, sorry, Rawan.
It's okay.
Nimri is an associate lecturer at the Department of Tourism, Sport and Hotel Management at Griffith Business School. She's also a researcher at Griffith Institute of Tourism. Rawan chaired the panel session on employability. So over to you, Rawan, for your summary and then reflection.
Thank you, Ying, and thank you everyone for an interesting, I would say, half a day of sessions. We had a very interactive session talking about employability. We had 4 panelists of senior academics and industry professionals who I would say shed the light on their professional experience and discussed various career pathways from PhD, for PhD scholars and ECRs. They talked about the perspectives of academic positions, postdoc pathways, and industry opportunities. Our first panelist was Professor Brian King from Texas A&M University. He focused mainly on the academic career and selection panel perspective. We had also Dr. Natasha Montesalvo from EarthCheck in Australia, who focused on building a career path in the industry. We had also our third panelist was Associate Professor Brent Moyle from Griffith University. He focused on the postdoc path. And finally, we had Dr. Jane Godfrey from Martin Jenkins from New Zealand, who focused on building a career path in consultancy and in the government sector. Now, the main ideas presented, and I think all the panelists agreed that you need to choose the right option to your career path and consider your career as a marathon. So we discussed all of these different options, but you need to make sure that you are choosing the right option for you. And once you start, you need to just fly there. And in any path you choose, make sure that you are aligning with the employer vision and check your skill set and capacities, as well as your passion. Where do you want to be and where do you see yourself in the future? One quote that was shared: be optimistic and aim to see opportunities in every challenge, and work on your transferable skills in any of those paths. And also show your willingness for any employer you're working with, that you are willing to embrace new ways of doing things. Be open for mentoring opportunities, and also accept criticism, and that would be a hard one, and take time to reflect. For all of the 4 panelists also stressed on well-being in terms of work-life balance. For people pursuing the academic path, the main suggestion was, and the tip was, you need to focus on all the aspects of teaching, research and services and publication, and be open to opportunities locally and globally, and focus on collaborations. For the industry and government and consultancy, you need to show your employer that you can adapt and learn new skills and talk their language. And finally, after the session with the panelists, we had a time for Q&A. And I would say the collective efforts of the panelists and the participants yielded a great session. So that would be our employability session in the morning.
Thank you very much, Rawan, for summarizing the highlights from the session and also for chairing the session as well.
Thank you.
So our next speaker is Dr. Naomi Dale. For those of you who were not at the opening session this morning, Naomi is the Associate Dean Curriculum and the Students in the Faculty of Business, Government and Law at the University of Canberra. Naomi chaired 2 ECR/MCR sessions this morning, one on sustainable career and the other is mentoring. So over to you, Naomi.
Thanks so much, Ying, much appreciated. And just because I'm starting a new session, I would like to acknowledge that I'm on Ngunnawal land, and I've really enjoyed seeing some of the other nations that people are joining us from, not just in Australia, but around the world. We had 2 wonderful mid-career academic, early career researcher sessions just gone, and I just wanted to give a brief overview as to who contributed to those and what we covered. So the first session, we were talking about how to be an effective mentor, and we had 3 wonderful professors joining us for those sessions. And the first was Professor Candice Harris from AUT, then Professor Karen Smith from Victoria University Wellington, and then finally Professor Sam Huang from ECU, Edith Cowan Uni. They each covered some really important points around effective mentoring, but I was really interested to see that in the end, it actually all tied back to our sense of community and collegiality, and in particular the CAUTHE Kindness initiative. Candice talked about, first of all, having a bit of a think about what is a mid-career academic or an early career researcher, and how mentoring needs to be over a set time period as opposed to something that's ongoing. It was made very clear that it wasn't a marriage and you weren't stuck with someone for forever. Candice also talked about how mentoring needs to be organised and structured, linked to an objective, and obviously a professional and safe environment for the mentor and the mentee. One thing that was really important that was pointed out by Candice was that mentoring should not be a surprise to the mentee. Don't be listing a whole heap of people that you're mentoring on your applications when they don't actually know that you're looking after them. So I think probably an important point for all of us to take away from that. Karen talked about authenticity and provided a couple of great links to not only the CAUTHE mentoring program, but the Royal Society for Mentoring and Research, which we popped into the chat there, but highlighted mentoring on the needs of the mentee, managing expectations, roles and relationships, some advice on how to get started, about how to structure the sessions, creating a safe space, but then always reviewing. So listening, questioning, reframing, acknowledgement, and then also validation from that as well. And finally, Sam reminded us that all of these relationships are very different, and the main thing was to stay truthful to yourself, but also to the mentee as well. And whilst being kind is important, you need to be perhaps as honest as you can be and truthful in regards to that mentor-mentee relationship. And he spoke from his personal experiences with some do's and don'ts about mentoring, and following mentorship principles around essence of true scholarship, mentee-centered development, status symmetry versus the power and experience, and then also transformational versus transactional relationships in that space. And so we had some really nice questions around some of those areas. And then we moved on to the Managing Sustainable and Meaningful Careers, ECR and Mid-Career Academic Workshop. We were very lucky to be joined by Associate Professors Tamara Young from Uni of Newcastle, Sebastian Phillip from Hong Kong Polytech, and Kevin So from Oklahoma State University, who was joining us in the evening from way over there. And then we also had Dr. Najmi Hassanli from University of Technology in Sydney. And they all had some really wonderful, I guess, hints and tips around managing sustainable and meaningful careers. Tamara used the CAUTHE acronym to actually come up with her own, I guess, set of tips around commitment, authenticity, being useful, being thankful, being humble, and then demonstrating excellence, and about prioritising and contribution to service in some of these spaces. Sebastian talked about some thoughts on making impact, and he covered pretend versus real impacts, and I guess how we could have a bit of a think about that more clearly. He talked about his own mentors and some of the tips from them, in particular around believing in yourself and collaboration, but also about not just focusing on papers, but some of the other aspects of being an academic. Unsurprisingly, he had to search Google for tips on work-life balance, because he said he didn't actually follow any of the tips himself, but he did provide some tips for himself and for others to follow. And in particular about being passionate and developing a brand. And there were some interesting questions about how to manage that. Kevin talked about some key reflections on higher education and the bigger picture, about achieving impacts and academic versus societal impacts in that particular space. Again, with a focus on the mentee and finding their passion, and how to engage and motivate not just higher degree students, but also his undergrad students. Some really great tips from that as well. The idea of understanding what to continue, what to start and what to stop, and thinking really carefully about the research cycle and the different stages and how that's a continuous process. And then finally, we had Najmi talking about the idea of the ideal academic, and some thoughts about when applying for promotion, that's a subjective space, and how she felt initially quite unready to do that, other than some support from some of her colleagues. And a really great opportunity to think about who am I and where do I want to be whilst you're applying for that promotion, but also in your career itself. And this, and it came through all of them, is about reflecting critically and asking yourself the hard questions before other people ask you them, I guess, and finding your own pace. And Najmi referred to an interesting article about the idea of slow scholarship, which I thought was really interesting, and we had some interesting questions come from that as well. And importantly, about sharing and supporting each other, and that sense of community that comes back to that CAUTHE Kindness campaign and working together as colleagues. So thank you very much to all of those wonderful panelists that we had for the session, and also for the wonderful questions and engagement that we had through both of those. That was really enjoyable, and I hand back to you. Thanks, Ying.
Thanks, Naomi. I admire your ability to capture the essence from multiple workshops and then present, the tips and highlights to us. Next, we have Mr. Tyler Riordan to talk about his experience and participating in the PhD workshop, and also in the mentoring session. So Tyler is a PhD candidate in hospitality and anthropology at the University of Queensland. And his research looks at the experiences of temporary migrants in the gig economy. Thank you, Tyler, for representing the PhD cohort and sharing your experience, and over to you.
Thank you, Ying, and thanks to everyone else for their organisation today. I'll try and be quick, as we're all probably pretty hungry, as I am. And wasn't sure how to go about it, so I'll just reflect on my experiences, and hopefully there's some crossover with other students. Obviously, we're a very diverse bunch here. So as a summary for those who weren't involved, we basically had about 30 to 40 minutes to pitch our research project based on one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and also linked with the conference theme of the next normal. So our group was actually, we had five of us from across Australia, and Emmanuel joined us from Hong Kong as well. which was good to have, I guess, some diverse perspectives. And that was, I guess, where we found it challenging. Having this real world experience of trying to get together and settle on an idea in a short space of time, we actually, on reflection, we tried some different methods of getting to know each other, trying to allocate tasks, and in the end, I hope my colleagues don't mind me saying, we all kind of just did it somehow without too much thought or planning, but it seemed to work organically. We'll see what happens when the prizes come up. And I guess that leads to some of the real world challenges we're facing when we're trying to pitch research and settle on research questions and things. I've found it really useful to reflect on with my own research. I've been lucky enough to be in some grant proposals as well, and trying to get that sexy idea that the judges would like in the same way that funders go for. I think we found that quite interesting as well. It was great to get to know each other and learn about the different skills of everyone, although maybe on reflection, we didn't employ that as well as we would want to in a real world circumstance. So that's something for us to think about. And obviously the mad scramble to the finish, cramming the night before, getting everything up onto the slide as the counter was ticking. Hopefully we can all use that as a bit of inspiration to get our theses finished last minute in some cases. So just looking at the Padlet, some other comments from other students on the group mentoring, that it was great to have the personalized sessions with the academics, having the small groups, the 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 sessions, getting relevant targeted advice from the mentors towards our career goals was good as well. And constructive advice. That was something I was reflecting on as well in my group, that we were grateful to have the opportunity to talk to someone outside our supervisory team, to talk about kind of personal challenges that maybe we're not so comfortable sharing with our supervisors always, and to speak about, as we saw in the employability workshop this morning, or the panel, sorry, that there's different paths that we all have available to us, and it's up to us, I guess, to choose them. And something that my mentor shared, and it speaks to what Natasha was talking about this morning as well, is to always keep your own values and goals in sight and to not compromise on that. I found it quite inspiring to hear that, you know, we have the power to not only add value, but to be valued. I think that's something we lose track a bit of in the day-to-day of academia. So I'll leave it there, and just a shout out to Jess for all her hard work getting everything together as the student rep. And thanks to everyone else as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tyler, for your reflection. And I would echo what you have said. Shout out to Jess. And we have experienced some technical issues in the PhD workshop and also the mentoring session. I hope that was not too traumatizing for our participants, but we are academics and future academics, and we are agile and we are adaptive, and we all love challenges, and we have managed through the technical challenges. So congratulations to everyone and all the cheers. So that was the reflection part of the closing ceremony. What's gonna come up next is an exciting moment. Naomi will announce the winners of PhD and ECR Bursaries for this year. Can everyone see the slide? Yes, that says CAUTHE 2022 Bursary Awards. Yes. So Naomi, over to you.
Thank you very much. We had some really wonderful applications for the bursaries, and whilst it was a little bit complicated moving from face-to-face back to ECR, back to online, I beg your pardon. I really do appreciate the support from the scientific committee at Griffith for the conference, who were able to provide us feedback on the papers in particular. And also thank you very much to Karen and Mike, who helped assess the applications we received. Thank you very much. And so without too much more to say, if we can move on to the first slide, please. So the first winner of one of the bursaries, congratulations, is to Sabia Martin, who is from the University of Newcastle. Sabia's paper was about the elephant in the room, business event organisers' insights and the challenges of virtual platforms. Congratulations to you for winning one of the PhD scholar bursaries. And the next one, then the next one we had was for early career researcher bursary, and this was awarded to Dr. Phoebe Everingham. Phoebe's paper was around building regenerative futures and a more than tourism agenda for post-COVID-19 recovery. So congratulations to you, Phoebe. And then finally, another early career researcher bursary was awarded to Dr. Lizette Olivia, a newly minted doctor, so that's very exciting. And the paper was around a conceptual model of perceived value in hallmark events in a post-COVID-19 marketplace. So congratulations to the three of you for your wonderful papers and excellent applications. And thank you very much to the CAUTHE executive for being able to continue this support that we offer to our PhD and early career researchers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Naomi, for announcing the winners. Next item on the agenda is from Professor Kirsten Holmes, and Chair of CAUTHE and a professor from Curtin University. Welcome back to the closing ceremony. I'll hand it over to say a few words to close the session.
Thank you very much, Ying, and to everyone else in the session this morning and this afternoon. This has been a fantastic workshop. It's been an enormous amount of work gone in behind the scenes organising this, and of course initially it was planned to be a combination of face-to-face and hybrid. That had to be shifted fairly last minute to everything to work online. We could all see in the mentoring session how complicated it was trying to set up 38 breakout rooms, and yet it all worked out. Everybody got the chance to talk to their mentees and mentors, which was a fantastic opportunity. And of course, online, we forget about that face-to-face, we'd have been trying to find each other in a busy room. You know, who is so-and-so, what do they look like? Then we'd be wandering out, we'd be trying to find a room, you know, somewhere quiet to sit and chat, and it would have taken us quite a while. But when we're all sat there waiting, it seems like, you know, it's a long time, but really it's nothing at all in terms of organising. So huge congratulations to the team. I wanted to especially mention a number of the people who are involved in organising the session today. Dr Ying Wang, of course, who has been our MC and key organiser, who's organised the workshop opening and closing ceremony and all the planning. Dr Rawan Nimri, who chaired the PhD and ECR panel, liaising with the mentors and drafting and finalising the mentor-mentee pairing list. Dr Jin Jin for her contribution to the planning for the MCA workshop. Jess J. Sang-yong, who designed and distributed the mentor survey and was involved in liaising with mentors and planning. And of course, Jess is our current PhD representative on the CAUTHE committee, which is a role that she will hold until after the conference. And then we'll be putting out a call for a new PhD rep in late February, early March. So if you're here, if you've enjoyed the session today, if you'd like to get involved more with CAUTHE, please watch out for our call for expressions of interest, which will come out shortly after the conference. Also, thank you to Mona Young and Mark Toe for planning and facilitating the workshop. And a huge thank you to Elaine Yang for overseeing everything. It's an enormous amount of work. I've seen so many emails going back and forth, and even over the weekend when I was trying to switch off, but the team couldn't stop working. And I also wanted to extend a thank you to Ina Reichenberger, who's not here today because it is a public holiday in New Zealand, and Naomi Dale, who's been speaking to you this morning, who are our CAUTHE exec members who've been helping with that. And I will just mention that we will be looking for a new CAUTHE exec member to look after sort of ECR PhD roles or activities on the exec going forward. If you're interested, let us know. That would be wonderful. And of course, anyone who's already on the exec is very welcome to look at that too. So thank you very much for everything this morning. It's a little bit early for me for lunch now, but I feel very hungry. So I suspect the rest of you are overly in need of food. And I'll pass on. I'm looking forward to the rest of the conference. It's been a fantastic start. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten. Thanks for your leadership at CAUTHE, and also thanks to Dr. Ying Wang, who has headed the organizing of the workshop program, the planning of this program. Before I let you go, I need to complete this one last task, which is promoting the speed networking session. We have designed several social activities and for this online workshop, and the one coming up next is at 2:30. So have a luncheon and then come back, and you will meet CAUTHE attendees and then learn interesting facts about them. Looks like through some sort of human bingo. I don't know too much about this, but it's there, and winner will get $25 worth of Amazon gift card. That brings us to the end of the workshop program. And I'll hope to see you later at the social activities or the opening ceremony of the main conference. And then thanks to all the speakers.
Thank you.
Bye.